The Chevrolet Suburban happens to be the longest running automotive nameplate of all time in the world, ever. In fact, it happens to predate Jack Black by 35 years, that's how old it is. Since its introduction as the Carryall Suburban in 1934, Chevrolet has introduced 11 subsequent iterations of the nameplate, resulting in 12 distinct generations of the Suburban across 92 years thus far. Both of those are pretty big numbers, so you wouldn't be crucified for presuming that this model of Chevy might hold the record for the most generations any nameplate has ever had. Well, what are you, stupid? Of course it couldn't be the Suburban. The rounded line model alone lasted like 20 years. Plenty of time for other manufacturers to catch up. We can do better than 12. So where do we start? Well, I think in order to find an answer to this question, we have to pinpoint what exactly a generation of a car is. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm just padding the runtime by explaining something trivial that we all understand already. This is the first generation Fengen 580, this is a second gen 580. We all know these things, and we can easily explain what a generational change is to our least favorite family members. Can we though? Okay, this is how it usually goes. After being in production for about 5 to 7 years, a car is replaced with a new model. One that sits on a newer platform with updated styling that results in panels that aren't interchangeable between the old and the new. A fresh interior and upgraded choice of engines can also be expected. All in all, creating a distinct package that can clearly be distinguished from the car that came before it. A facelift can change some of these, but definitely not the underlying platform that the car is based on, as that would contradict the point of a facelift, which is to be more of an inexpensive way to extend the lifespan of an existing model. That should be the case at least, unless you're Land Rover, but let's just get rid of that. There we go. So how do we count the Audi A4? Going from the B6 to the B7, we find that the platform didn't change much, even less so with the interior. Even some of the engine options were untouched. I mean, just compare the two side by side. They're like me and my twin brother. White. But Audi insists these are two separate generations of the A4 nameplate. Well, for the sake of this discussion, it comes down to this. How does the manufacturer define it? If Audi tells us that the 2004 A4 isn't merely a facelift, but a whole new generation, then we simply have to take their word on that. Whatever a car maker says, goes. That means the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo has 10 generations. No, it doesn't. In 1884, German man Carl Benz would begin developing something that would turn out to be the first ever automobile, the Benz patent Motorwagen. In 1948, Ford introduced the F-Series trucks. Not much happened in between. The smart thing to do here would be to go as far back in history as possible, searching for an ancient nameplate that's still in production. The answer isn't gonna be a Chevy Montana, is it? Ford's F-Series, for example, has been around for nearly 80 years, making it a fantastic contender here. The original F-Truck went on sale for the 1948 model year, replacing the car-based Ford pickups that had resumed production after the war. As is the case today, the original lineup was quite vast, with the model range back then including the F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, then the F6, F7, F8, and that's it. Having listed all of them, I'm really struggling not to pick some nits now, because it wouldn't be until the second generation F-Truck from 1952 that the 3-digit number naming system that we're all familiar with today was introduced. The F250, for example, has its origins in 1953, replacing the earlier F2 and F3. It was even decades later, in 1975, that the F-150 nameplate that we know today entered production for the first time. My point being, Ford does not offer an F1 these days, nor have they ever sold a truck with the official legal name of Ford F-Series. Just like an accountant having sex on their lunch break, the F is always followed by some numbers. Unfortunately, we just can't count the entire lineage here, and instead we can take, for example, the F250 and its 13 whole generations from 1953 onwards into consideration. Now, 13 is obviously a big number in this context, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a YouTuber. It's taken Ford and Chevrolet nearly a century to achieve this feat, which just makes it all the more impressive that Chrysler, at one point a competitor to those two, managed to reach this number before we even entered the 21st century. I'm talking about the Chrysler New Yorker, a nameplate originating from before the Second World War that was, for decades, the flagship Chrysler, just below the top-of-the-line Imperials. Being such a long-running model line, the New Yorker lineage actually captures Chrysler's narrative through the 20th century rather well. Evolving from Chrysler's usual slab-sided beasts to the gorgeous forward-look works of art, before being hopelessly ruined in the early 60s and settling into an era of malaise in the early 70s, before being saved from a place of desperation by new models based on the K-car platform. Models which then outstayed their welcome, dragging on for way too long, before being saved from a place of desperation by new models based on the LH platform. This 1994 New Yorker was launched alongside an all-new model called LHS. Yes, these are two separate models. You see, the New Yorker had a chromed grille, the LHS had less of a chromed grille. The most important distinction was on the inside, where the LHS was a 5-seater and the New Yorker had a bench seat at the front, accommodating 6. This bizarre system obviously wasn't going to last for long, and with the LHS becoming the more popular choice among customers, the very last New Yorker rolled off the production line in September of 1995, retiring a nameplate that had been in use for 54 years, covering 13 generations. If Chrysler would have continued using the New Yorker nameplate until this current day, just imagine how much bigger this number could have been by now. Actually, quite a few contenders have been discontinued by now, leaving them out of the discussion. The Nissan Cedric, for example, or the Pontiac Bonneville, both having their 10th iterations entering production in 1999 before meeting their demise in the mid-2000s. The Cedric. Once upon a time, it was a part of Nissan's vast lineup of long-standing sporty luxury sedans offered for the Japanese market. All of these were offered alongside each other. Among this sea of saloons, you'll find a car that most people might even recognize, and right next to it is the Skyline. Telling people that the Skyline isn't just a couple of cool GTRs from the 90s and is indeed one of Nissan's longest running models has seemingly become more common than people actually thinking that was the case. So I won't repeat it here that the Skyline isn't just a couple of cool GTRs from the 90s and is indeed one of Nissan's longest running models. The Nissan Skyline is a staple of the company's Japanese lineup, having been around since 1957, although originally being called the Prince Skyline, preceding Nissan's merger with the Prince Motor Company in 1966. And yes, you are correct. The name Prince was indeed chosen in 1952 in honor of Prince Akihito's inauguration as Crown Prince the very same year. Alright, if we can't count the Prince Skyline, then the Nissan Skyline lineage began in 1966. From there, multiple fantastic Nissan models evolved out of the Skyline, like the Silvia, which began its life as a baby Skyline, or the later GTR models. But the greatest thing to come out of this lineage was undoubtedly the R30 Paul Newman edition.
車は愛だ。今、新しい愛のスカイラインズ誕生。
Skyline's terrific.
誕生、愛のスカイライン。あの名車から 新しい名車が生まれた。
Thank you, Paul. His legacy has helped the Skyline name survive to this very day with a new model on the way soon. Not counting the Prince Skyline because of some silly rule someone came up with, that would make this the 13th generation again? 14th if you count the original, which is a lot, but we can do better. Let's get down to brass tacks here. The reason I'm dwelling on the Skyline for so long is because the actual answer to this question is, in many regards, rather similar to the Nissan. A long-standing nameplate belonging to a sporty, luxurious sedan that's, for the most part, designed for the Japanese market. One that's been highly influential to the manufacturer throughout the decades, spawning multiple sister models and helping the brand itself start out in international markets. The car with the most generations ever made, of all time, is the Toyota Crown. Debuting in January 1955, when Japanese roads were filled with foreign cars, Toyota set out to design a domestic model that would be accessible to as many customers as possible. Its name originating from the English word Crown. The original Crown resembled Toyota's very first production vehicle, the AA, with its suicide rear doors, and the car would end up being a bit of a success for the company, so much so that in late 1955, the Crown Deluxe would be added to the range, featuring such features as a radio and a heater. 1962 would bring the second. Whoa, it's a premium sedan all of a sudden. Yes, in fact, a brand new single overhead cam straight 6 was added to the range in 1965, the first time ordinary individuals could get a 6-cylinder Crown. The third generation Crown, according to Toyota, was vigorously marketed to individuals interested in owning a car, as opposed to all of those cars that are marketed to people absolutely not interested in buying a car. The fourth gen looks wrong. I think it's overstyled, even echoing what Toyota's design language would end up being 40 years later. The next one, I think, overcorrected and just became boring. From there on out, the Crown settled into its groove of a comfortable 6-cylinder Toyota sedan until 2022, when the company decided to improve the sales of the nameplate by making the 16th generation a whole sub-brand sold in global markets, not just Japan. The usual Crown sedan was now joined by the Crown Signia Estate crossover, the Citroen C5X, and the Ferrari Purosangue. But as I said, 16 generations, a fine achievement. But seeing the rate at which these Chinese manufacturers keep updating their models, I have a feeling I'll need to revisit this topic in, I don't know, 6 months?
Do you disagree with the video? Well, why don't we settle this over a fried peanut butter banana sandwich? You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Thanks again, Paul Newman. And a warm welcome to all of our new Corsa members. Gabriel Lopez, Alien Car, Finlo, Renat Ibrahimov, Andrew TT, Domin, Yuan, Chia, Burakara, Toads on Ice, Alex Creed, Prince Mooney, Adam Quebler, Savory Salts, okay, Blake Leeds, NK44, Joshua Schmee, Dilana Tenaconi, Lumiko, Daniel Muntan, Johannes Graf, BK Muzzleflash, Niels Casemakers, Mondre Bremner, Ur Gazelloglu, I think, Alex McFadden, Matej Palan, Pepine Verschlaus, Max Nielsen, Jake302, Golden Whisk 214, JMI Black. What did the blonde say when she couldn't find her car? Nokia Pad Inc., Lieutenant Lightyear, Josh with a 0. Daring, Christo Anastasov, Kaushik Chatterjee, CDZ125M, Ashka is shrimped, I bet they are, Ryan, Internet User, Ducks are awesome, Colin Hall, Rare, Blinded Episode, Roberto Torres, Vashlav Sabella, Carzo, Egg Sandwich, Eric, Chris Mackin, CSI 117, Marks, Dominic Boysta, Jack Jordan, Worst Buy, what, a second-gen Renault Laguna? Will Ridgway, Linear Lux, Søren Sobe, Henry McCaslin Strachan, Iftiar Raman, Patrick Mieland, Alexander Putra, Emmanuel Vasquez, El Bambino, Chloe Berman, Kirill Sidorenko, Mayank Maximum, The Sixth Hottest Dog, Ken, Hamish A, Ortet, Sub-Minor Threat, oh thank god. Ikramula Atsahabi, Tsimka, Chachmeo, Mutsis, then Emmerich E, Robert Siberis, Francisco Arambula, JJ, Kendall, Snort Lord Nort, Guxzucker 69, Yarek, Talia FEI, Harry U, Stoney, Tsungarayan, Better Call Saul Villegas, Pietro Favalli, Guilherme Batista, Les Thug Life, Yuri Vashchik, Konrad Kowalczyk, Joey Gonzalez, Smarch89, Jacob Medley, Sakura Arcana, and the one and only Plastic Bleach.